It all started innocently enough when I stumbled upon an intriguing Craigslist ad. As a struggling writer, I was constantly on the lookout for odd jobs to make ends meet. The post, titled Unearth Hidden Secrets, Paid Research Opportunity, promised a hefty sum for investigating a mysterious old mansion nestled deep within the woods just outside of town. The story behind the place was the stuff of local legend, tales of dark rituals, missing persons, and an enigmatic recluse who dwelled there, luring in curious souls like me. With a mix of curiosity and desperation, I decided to answer the ad and embarked on a chilling journey that would change my life forever. The backstory to my character was one of a perpetual dreamer, always in pursuit of that elusive big break in the writing world. Financial struggles had pushed me to the brink, and this Craigslist ad seemed like the answer to my prayers. Armed with a laptop, a notebook, and a sense of adventure, I arrived at the mansion on a misty autumn afternoon, a chill already tugging at my spine. The house itself was a dilapidated Victorian masterpiece, its ornate facade worn by time and weathered by neglect. Overgrown ivy clung to its sides, casting eerie shadows that danced in the fading daylight. As I crossed the threshold, an unsettling silence engulfed me, broken only by the creaking floorboards beneath my feet. The air inside was heavy with the scent of decay, and my heart pounded like a drum in my chest. Cobwebs dangled from the ceiling like macabre decorations, and dust motes swirled in the dim light. The place felt abandoned, but a shiver ran down my spine as I heard a faint whisper from somewhere deep within the mansion. Over the next few days, I delved into my research, uncovering a series of diaries that hinted at a gruesome past. The mansion had indeed been home to a recluse, but the diary entries spoke of strange rituals performed in the dead of night. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that unseen eyes followed my every move. One night, as I pored over the diaries, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, sending my heart racing. I rushed to investigate, but there was no one in sight. Panic set in as I realized I was utterly alone in this sinister place. As the days turned into weeks, the mansion's malevolent secrets began to unravel. I discovered a hidden chamber deep in the bowels of the house, filled with disturbing artifacts and a chilling altar. It was then that I realized the mansion was not abandoned at all. Something sinister lurked within its walls, something that had been waiting for me. Terrifying visions haunted my dreams, and I found myself trapped in a never-ending nightmare. Desperation pushed me to complete my research, to unveil the truth behind the mansion's horrors. But the more I uncovered, the closer I came to a sinister revelation. The recluse who once dwelled here was no ordinary person. He had made a pact with a malevolent entity, trading his soul for power and immortality. And now that entity hungered for more souls to devour. As I write this, I am trapped in this malevolent house, my only company, the tormented spirits that roam its haunted halls. My search for a breakthrough as a writer led me down a dark and terrifying path, one from which I fear I may never escape. The Craigslist ad promised a chance to unearth hidden secrets, but what I found was a nightmare that has become my eternal reality. In the dim glow of my laptop screen late one night, I stumbled upon a Craigslist listing that sent a shiver down my spine. It was a peculiar offer, promising a sizable sum of cash in exchange for participating in a social experiment. My backstory painted me as a recent college graduate, drowning in student loans and desperate for a quick way out of my financial woes. The curiosity in me got the better of caution, and I found myself responding to the enigmatic ad, agreeing to meet the anonymous poster at a remote cabin nestled deep in the woods the following weekend. The days leading up to my journey were filled with nagging doubts, but the allure of the money was too powerful to resist. On a crisp autumn afternoon, I embarked on the drive to the secluded cabin, navigating winding roads that grew narrower and more remote with each mile. The sun dipped below the horizon, and by the time I reached the destination, darkness had settled in, shrouding the forest in an eerie silence. The cabin itself was a rustic structure, its wooden panels weathered by years of exposure to the elements. A flickering lantern on the porch hinted at signs of life, and my heart pounded as I knocked on the door. It creaked open to reveal a tall, slender figure draped in shadow. I could barely make out their features, but their voice was calm and assured as they welcomed me inside. The interior was dimly lit, adorned with peculiar symbols and markings on the walls. My mysterious host introduced themselves as the Observer and explained the rules of the experiment. I was to spend 3 days in complete isolation, with no contact with the outside world, and document my experiences in a journal. In exchange, a hefty sum of cash would be mine. Doubt clawed at my resolve, but with no phone signal and the nearest town miles away, I had little choice but to comply. The first day passed uneventfully, marked only by the uneasy solitude and an ever-present sense of being watched. As darkness fell on the second night, strange noises echoed through the cabin, a whispering wind, creaking floorboards, and faint murmurs that I couldn't quite decipher. Sleep eluded me, and the journal became my only solace. On the third day, I emerged from the cabin, feeling disoriented and exhausted. I handed over my journal to the Observer, who seemed pleased with my account of the isolation. But when I asked about the nature of the experiment and the purpose behind it, they remained cryptic, offering no clear answers. It was then that a chilling realization crept in. The experiment might not have been as simple as I had believed. With my payment in hand, I left the cabin, the woods seeming darker and more foreboding than when I had arrived. As I drove away, the feeling of being watched lingered, and I couldn't help but wonder if I had unknowingly become a participant in a sinister game with consequences far beyond my understanding. In the weeks that followed, strange occurrences haunted my life. Untraceable phone calls, mysterious letters, and an unshakable sense of paranoia. The Craigslist experiment had left a lasting mark on my psyche, and I couldn't escape the gnawing fear that I had become a pawn in a malevolent game that would haunt me forever with no way out. Being a struggling artist, I was constantly on the lookout for odd jobs on Craigslist to make ends meet. One day, a peculiar ad caught my attention. Unique artistic opportunity. Come create in isolation. My backstory portrayed me as an aspiring painter, drowning in debt and desperate for a chance to showcase my talents. The offer promised solitude in a remote cabin deep in the woods, away from the distractions of the modern world, and the payment was generous. Lured by the promise of both artistic inspiration and financial relief, I packed my canvases and brushes and set off for the secluded haven. The cabin, hidden away in the heart of the forest, appeared rustic and picturesque, but as the days passed, I realized there was something unsettling about the place. The isolation grew oppressive, the woods devoid of the usual sounds of nature. I painted feverishly, my brushstrokes capturing the eerie stillness that enveloped me. One night, as I worked late into the twilight hours, I heard faint whispers echoing through the cabin. They were unintelligible, like the voices of long-forgotten souls, and they seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. My unease grew, and I contemplated leaving, but the thought of the money and the promise of artistic brilliance held me in check. Days turned into weeks, and my canvases transformed into disturbing depictions of the whispering forest. Then, on a moonless night, the whispers coalesced into a haunting chorus, their words finally clear. They beckoned me into the woods, promising untold artistic mastery if I followed their call. Driven by a compulsion I couldn't resist, I ventured into the dark forest. The path was treacherous, and the branches seemed to reach out, grasping at my sanity. The whispers guided me deeper, until I stumbled upon a clearing where a nightmarish tableau awaited. In the center stood an easel, surrounded by paintings that bore an uncanny resemblance to my own work. Each canvas depicted a horrifying scene from my past, and the realization struck me. This place knew my darkest secrets. The whispers grew deafening, a cacophony of torment, as they revealed themselves to be the voices of those who had come before me. Artists ensnared by the same sinister promise. They warned me of the cabin's true nature, a malevolent entity that fed on the creativity and souls of those it ensnared. I fled the cabin, abandoning my materials and the money. The forest seemed to come alive, the very trees clawing at my escape. I finally broke free, the echoes of the whispers lingering in my mind. The Craigslist ad had ensnared me in a nightmare of artistic torment, and though I had escaped with my life, the horrors I witnessed in that isolated cabin would forever haunt my dreams.